So I don't think there is a right way or a wrong way. I
Yeah.
think what you need to address is the pattern. So to your point, when you go back, when you look at patterns, so what are the patterns that we are seeing? Patterns are phase zero planning is horrendous. You know that, I know that. Nobody spends time doing it. OCM, no one wants to talk about change management. Talent, no one wants to touch that. Upskilling, no one wants to talk about it. These are patterns.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to this segment of the show. In this, we bring very exciting guests from the community. And for today, I think it's going to be her second appearance. So we will ask her to introduce shortly. Just a couple of points from the logistics perspective. We have many guests lined up. So Friday is when we meet, and this is going to be between 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern. So keep an eye on my wall. That's where you can find these shows. And generally we schedule based on the availability of the guest, as well as their time zone. So on that note, Sana, do you want to reintroduce yourself? I guess, I mean, we did one episode with you. Still, some people might not know. So maybe start with your intro.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sam, first of all, for having me here. It is always a pleasure chatting with you. You are amazing. You are doing amazing work. So thank you for having me here. And for everyone who doesn't know me, apparently Sam has coined my name as the ERP Queen. I have been in the SAP ecosystem for about 3 decades. And my goal is to work with clients, with consultants, with empathy, gratitude, and grace, because I believe there is a better way of doing transformations than what we are doing today.
Yeah, so if you are calling yourself ERP Queen, we need to see the branding. Where is that? Where is the background?
That'll be a little too fastidious, wouldn't it be, Sam? I'm like, oh, the queen here. But I do have the crown. I just keep fixing it.
It is so much fun, Sana, with you. So, okay, so let's start with the episode, I guess. So I don't know how much you recall, what we had covered in the first one. So we touched more from the SAP licensing perspective. That's my recollection. So let's do a little recap in terms of what we covered, and then, obviously we are going to build. In this episode, my goal is to talk about phase zero, as well as, from the ECC perspective. We touched about this topic just a little bit in the first episode. So I don't know how much you recall, and if you want to build on that, maybe start with that.
Sure, I absolutely can. Yeah. So let's just kind of recap what we talked about, and then I'll talk about phase zero, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So when we had met a few months ago, Sam, we had talked about some of the ingredients that go into a phase zero, right? Some of the pieces that clients need to focus on. And we had kind of taken those pieces as different parallels or different, pillars. Where one was SAP licenses, one was, custom code, one was SAP integrations, right? So those were the pillars we had talked about. And we had not really talked about the entire phase zero advisory. So to recap what we had talked about, I personally believe that these 3 pillars are very essential in a phase zero. Plus you add to that the data piece and a solution review piece, technical and functional, right? And for phase zero today, as I want to talk to you about, is I have the ability to take all these pillars, which is SAP licenses, custom code, and remediation, data, SAP integrations, and of course the whole solution review on technical and functional through a series of tools and frameworks, and go to a client in 12 weeks to start on their current as is. And at the end of the 12 weeks, be able to show them their entire system in S4HANA system, not on paper, not through a PowerPoint, not through a deliverable. That's also a piece of it, but through a system that they can use in their dev and move the project forward. So it is very different than saying, I'll come in, I'll do a phase zero, I'll work with you for 6 months, then we'll do a proof of concept, and then that's all throwaway work and money. We're not doing that. In 12 weeks, I am going to be able to take the customer on where they currently are. So take the inventory of where you are and show you your future in an S4 HANA system on Rise.
Yeah, so very interesting. So before we peel layers into that,
Yes.
if you're in the audience, make sure you guys post your questions, comments, stories. We are a big fan of this three-way conversation. So would love to touch on your comments, whatever you can relate with. You have anything? On that note, Sarah, obviously 12 weeks is a very short time in the
Yes.
ERP community in general, right? Uh, in my personal experience, when you are dealing with these large organizations, and for the most part, if you look at the majority of the SAP installations, they are going to be relatively large. I mean, they are not
Right.
like two people shop, that you can get people for meeting within 2 days. So now, when you talk about 12 weeks timeline, that's very short.
Yes.
Just to get people to meet, I guess it might take 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So how do you manage the expectation? I mean, how do you manage the timeline within 2 weeks? And when you are talking about, even if you are talking about documenting, let's say the as is processes,
Right.
this is not like, I have some AI tool here that can do some sort of documentation. Even if it is able to do it, then also you need to build a lot on that. So how, tell me more about the 12 weeks timeline. How does that work?
Sure. There's a lot of magic, Sam. A lot of magic. I'm teasing. So, first of all, Sam, I'm sure you've heard me say this, and I use the analogy of the Steve Jobs iPhone launch, which is I think 2006 or 2007. I'm not sure if you ever saw that video, but when you get a chance, go take a look at the video. It's on YouTube. And Steve Jobs says a very, very beautiful thing. He says, "Look, I am not launching a new phone." At that time, Nokia, Samsung, all of these guys were really very big players in the market, right? What Steve said, I'm going to launch a phone, but I am going to show you what the power of a finger can do on the phone. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make it the experience easier, right? So he didn't launch a brand new phone. I'm exactly in that same analogy, Sam. I'm not launching anything which people don't know. All I'm doing is I am taking the pieces which are very relevant to a client, the pillars that I'm talking about, and with frameworks, with AI also, absolutely, you are spot on with that, and frameworks and tools, going into the customer site and saying, I need 12 weeks of your time to understand your as is and create your future to be. And it's not bullshit, Sam. I've worked with a number of clients who have been successful at implementing this. So I'm not just speaking out of line or it's a dream pipe or, I'm not saying any of that. I've actually done this.
Yeah, no. I'm simply curious in understanding how the process is going to work. So let's say if the customers are listening, they need to understand what they need to enable from their perspective as well.
Correct.
So let's say if you are talking about 12 weeks process, first, obviously, even if you're creating a simple BRD, which is probably going to be the foundation of everything, right? You have the as processes, but especially if you look at the majority of the ECC installations, and I think we touched on this topic in the last episode as well, that
Yes.
90% of them are probably going to be very custom in general.
Correct.
Okay. And if
Correct.
you're moving to SAP S4HANA, SAP S4HANA is a very different architecture. There is going to be substantial, I would say, re-engineering of the business processes. It's not the same architecture. It's not the same data model. So that's going to require a lot of discussion.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. That the reason I use the word magic is exactly that. So first of all, no, it is not required. And let me tell you why I say that. Let's just bust that myth right here, right now. Okay. Why would you go back to looking at what you have? You will look at the future, right? So when I go into the future, when I'm talking to these clients, I am showcasing to them best practices in S4HANA. We're not going to customize things all over again. We're going to take where you are and move you forward into best practices. That's number one. And that's again done through AI and through tools and frameworks that I've put together already, right? When I talk about the 5 pillars, the licensing, the custom code, the integrations, the data, all of these pillars are going to have tools that are going to run within a customer's infrastructure, the dev, environments for us to get feedback from. That feedback we're plugging into our newer S4HANA system for a end result. So like I said, it's magic. It truly is magic, Sam, because we're not focused on doing the things the old way. I'm going to sit here for 25 weeks, 30 weeks, figure out the as is. No. What we're doing is we're bringing in the realize phase up front. So many a times, what happens is clients start a implementation, start a transformation, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months down the road, they come to the realize phase and they go, yeah, let's start implementing, our solution. And what they realize is, oh my God, that's not what I wanted. That's not the discussion we had. All I'm doing is I'm taking that realize phase and bringing it forward so that we can avoid 80% of ERP failures. That's all I'm doing. We're just flipping the script, Sam. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, so very interesting, and I'm just interested in learning a little bit more, I guess, how this is going to work. So let's peel some more layers there. In terms of, okay, so let's say you are saying that, okay, so I am designating my 12 weeks here,
Right.
and you have these tools, great idea, and this is going to understand all of my custom code somehow. The tool is capable of understanding the custom code that I have. I may have completely modified my data model. I may have
Right.
completely modified my process model. It is going to give the deviations, I guess, from the target state. And
Yes.
then it is also going to document my processes within 12 weeks.
Yes.
And I'm going to flip the switch and it's all going to magically work. Is that what you're telling me?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm telling you. Because again, so it's what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to simplify what I'm saying, right? So for example, let's just take custom code as the example.
Yeah.
When we are running the tool on the
Yes.
custom code, right?
Yeah.
We're in 3 weeks, we're going to figure out what the client has, what is the deviation, what is best practice. These are not tools that you're running for months. No. There is no time for months anymore. If you look at the ECC end of life, it's 2027.
Yeah.
And it's 2030 if you decide to go to RISE. So we will run the tools, we will run the frameworks, and while we are running these frameworks, we are simultaneously working on creating the newer system. So as we are collecting data from the older system, we're saying, oops, no, this is not good. We have to remediate this. How does this look in the newer system? Here's how it looks. So like I said, it's magic, and you and I will absolutely need a whole separate session for me to show you the system, to go into each and every piece of it. I'd be happy to do that, Sam.
Yeah. No. So let's talk some more, I guess. I mean, and
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, this is a podcast, right? So we don't really have room to show anything. We just need
Exactly.
to
That's
talk.
why I said I'd be happy to work with you. And personally, I'd be happy to show you. No
Maybe
problem
we
at
can
all.
do a demo one of these days, I guess, and then
We should do a
maybe we
demo.
can
I
talk,
would
right?
love that. Yeah, 100%.
So, but I mean, here we don't have that option, so we still need to talk, right?
Right.
So here you are saying that what this is my, and again I'm trying to understand, and
Yes.
my audience is going to have the questions as well, right? So let's say you have the new system. This is my SAP S4HANA system. You have your old ECC system, and you are saying that you are going to pull all of these data set. I'm going to configure this in my SAP S4HANA, and if I get any sort of deviations, obviously you are going to fix that. So that seems to be more of the technical translation of ECC to S4HANA. At least that's how I'm reading
Right, but
it.
that's just one piece, right? We're just talking about the custom code. That's the example I gave you, right? But if you look at licensing,
Yeah.
same situation. So I'll give you a very simple example on license. If I'm currently an ECC customer and I'm using 5,000 licenses, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I've not looked at my license in the last 5 or 7 years.
Yeah.
I probably have only 3,600 active users,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
I'm paying for 5,000, right? Internally, I don't have the capability of going and looking at a license structure. And obviously, with the whole rise with SAP, the whole license structure has also changed that, as you know, right?
Yeah.
What I will do is I will run my license with the client, understand what they have. So bring everything back in first, then go back and say, hey, look, you now have the opportunity to optimize. When you're going to go to RISE, you don't need to buy 5,000 licenses. You can buy 3,200 licenses
Yeah.
because that's your active user for the next 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And so I have the ability to give them an optimization opportunity, give them a breakdown on what they currently have, what they
Yeah.
currently, and what they will need in the future.
Yeah. So let's say, if I'm looking at one customer and I don't know if you are going to have any sort of stories. Generally, the customers we come across, okay, 90% of them, even if they are not going to have SAP, they are going to have smaller ERP systems.
Right.
Most of them are going to have some sort of dependent systems that are either consuming
Right.
data, doing some sort of processing, from your ERP. ERP is not everything, right?
Right.
So now you are going to have all of these interfaces, some sort of integration. The processes are going to be dependent upon your core system as well.
Right.
So when you are doing this, my assumption is going to be that you are not looking at anything else, I guess.
No,
In
we're
that
not.
12 weeks, right? So
That is correct.
so as a customer,
Yeah.
if I look at my priorities, right, I need the whole solution, because even if you are able to configure the system within 12 weeks, that doesn't do any good
Correct.
to
So
me.
okay, I completely agree with you, and I understand what you're saying. So let's take a step back, Sam, and look at these statistics that are real today,
Yeah.
right? ERP failures, 75 to 80%.
Yeah.
Less than 30% of talent available who is
Yeah.
actually the right talent, right? Close to 45,000 clients need to make a move out to
Yeah.
from ECC to S4. Tell me, if I'm able to move the needle, Sam,
Yeah.
just by 1%, I'm not even saying 50%, 10%, 1%. How much more savings am I going to give up? So think about this. If I'm able to go in 12 weeks and
Yeah.
show them a brand new
Yeah.
S4HANA system with their processes, and of course,
Yeah.
then there'll be iterations, right?
Yeah.
Hey, no, I want it this way, whatever that comes out.
Yeah.
How much better is that than spending a year and coming up with nothing? I have a starting. Yes, I'm not God. I can't be sitting there and I'm not a Wizard of Oz that taking a magic wand and saying, I'll do everything. No, because you think about this, right? The
Yeah.
damage we've done to ourselves over the years takes time to unravel.
Yeah.
So at least you have a very clear starting point, right?
Yeah.
Now we know what we're going to do. And then we start a transformation. That's why it's called phase zero. So at least you take inventory of what you got, and then we start working through that.
So I'm going to offer an analogy, and I don't know if you are going to be able to relate with this, and maybe you
Okay.
are going to have some stories there as well, right? So,
Okay, sure.
so for example, let's talk about the success of marriages, Sana, and I'm pretty sure you are going to be interested in that topic. And I don't know how many marriages are successful. Maybe maybe pick a number: 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%.
No, in my world, they're 100%.
100% successful. Okay.
100% successful.
100, there is no problem at all in your world, but that's not how the other part of the world works, right?
No, that's not the truth. But anyway, there are problems. You work through the problems. So yeah, go ahead. Give me your analogy.
So basically, okay, let's make a number. Maybe 70% are successful. Okay, so now we want to solve the problem. Obviously, our goal is going to be that, hey, let's make this somehow 100%.
Right.
We need to. So how would you make that successful? There are two possibilities, right? So we will say that, the number is really big. The number of marriages that are unsuccessful are really big. So, okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe 100,000, 200,000 marriages are failed. So now we need to reduce this number, right? So what is going to be the approach? That one approach could be that, hey, we have a lot of failure, and let's rush through the process. Meaning, let's not allow them to talk, let's not allow them to think, let them get married, and then let's see what happens. I think that's the kind of approach that this whole expedited implementation seems to be taking. In my mind, let's say if you want to make these marriages successful, you need to probably slow down. You need to think a little bit more. You need to think about what is happening with these marriages to be able to find the solution. So which approach would you take? Would you go slower or would you go faster with the marriage analogy in your experience?
Sure. So Sam, first of all, to solve any problem, you need to look at patterns. You're not going to hit anything without a pattern. So in your mind, when you said that 70% marriages are failing, or they're successful and 30% are failing, you would want to understand why the 30% failing. Okay. You have to understand patterns. You just can't wake up one day and say, oh, they're failing. No, there has to be a pattern to why they're failing. So that's number one.
Right.
Secondly, we're not talking implementation, Sam, here at all. We're talking a phase zero, which is planning. I have clients who I have spent time with, and if I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at, listen to the podcast from yesterday with Nick Jackson from HB Fuller. Yeah. Nick has spent 18 months just planning his S4HANA RISE implementation. Planning. I'm not even talking about implementation. That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So imagine if I can take that planning time, condense it, and say, look, this is what you got. The challenge we have today, we don't even have the ability to identify patterns, Sam. We don't even know what we don't know, right? Think about that. So all we're saying is we're going to come in, we'll help you see what you got.
Yeah.
Then you want to go work with your SI? Be my guest, go work with your SI. You want to work with us? No problem. But I'm going to tell you the damn truth of what you got,
Yeah.
what you're going to get into without the bullshit.
Yeah, so the pattern that you are talking about is called study, and a study does take time because you are looking at millions of variables, with any sort of large implementation. Just like marriages, you need to understand, how in marriage how people are behaving, what is the nuances, what is triggering the personality issues, I guess,
Right.
what
But
causes
that's where
conflict.
experience comes in, right, Sam? That's where the experience comes in, right?
It does, but I mean, still, each marriage is unique. Yeah, and if you look at any of the marriage counselor, the way they approach this is, I mean, they are going to start from your childhood, and they are going to literally study everything, and that does take time and patience and a number of sitting. And if you are going to rush through the process, you are probably going to have misleading conclusions. That's how.
No, fair point. Absolutely. Very, very fair point. And I think we're not rushing through, Sam, because if I were to go back and say, I'll take 24 weeks to do this, oh, that's really too long.
I
Oh, I'm
agree.
probably going to take a year. Oh my God, that's really long. So I don't think there is a right way or a wrong way. I
Yeah.
think what you need to address is the pattern. So to your point, when you go back, when you look at patterns, so what are the patterns that we are seeing? Patterns are phase zero planning is horrendous. You know that, I know that. Nobody spends time doing it. OCM, no one wants to talk about change management. Talent, no one wants to touch that. Upskilling, no one wants to talk about it. These are patterns. So when you start looking at your own transformation, you're just not going to put the gun on me or any other vendor. You're going to start asking yourself the question first: what am I willing to change when I embark on this journey? Right? Which is why I have a masterclass for my executives to say, guys, don't rush into something without thinking through this. There is a logic behind all this.
Yeah, so very interesting. So, Jason has one of the comment. So let's touch on that.
Yep.
So he's saying, Sana, not trying to open a can of worms, but we briefly define failure in the context of this discussion, which I completely agree. I mean, failure could mean a lot of different things.
Yes.
Even if something could be a success in your mind, in my mind, that could be failure to be. It's a very
exactly
subjective
very, very
discussion.
subjective. Absolutely. So yeah, Jason, it's a great question, and you're not opening a can of worms. It's something that we've heard many, many times because it's too good to be true. Failure here is very, very simply put that you're not able to get a handle on where you are. And make it very, very simple. Forget marriages, forget ERP implementations. Just let's look at a home, right? You are in a one bedroom, home today. You get married, you have two kids. Obviously, you're cramped for space. What are you going to do? You're going to look for a townhome. You're going to upgrade to a home, right? When you are doing that, you're moving from being single to married to a family. What are you going to do? You are going to now look for a new home. At that point, you're going to step back and say, you know what? Everything that I have in my current home is fantastic for me as a single person, or me and my wife as a couple. But I don't think I need that sofa that I bought 10 years ago when I had my three other friends living with me. So I'm going to jump that. I'm not going to take that. Also, in my children's room, I need to have new furniture. What does that look like? So it's a very simple analogy of doing exactly that. When you're moving your home, you're not going to carry all your junk. You're going to carry what things are either sentimental value to you, right? Or things that you really enjoy having around. And then you're going to go and buy newer things, right? So failure in my mind is the ability to not foresee and not plan for what is going to come next. These transformations are going to get better, faster, cheaper, not because these are the words, but with AI coming in, with consultants truly changing. A lot of experienced people like me who are not in the industry anymore, they've just left. They're like, we don't want to deal with this anymore, right? Rates have gone down. So do you really think the old way of working is going to work? Absolutely not. You have to shift and you have to get to a better outcome.
Yeah, so let's go back to the couch example. I really like that because that's the problem I had. So maybe you can provide me, some sort of solution here. Okay.
Okay,
So
I can't be a therapist, Sam. I'm so sorry. Even if you're wanting me to do that.
I need
I
answers,
am
Sana. I
teasing.
don't have answers. Okay, I have not figured
No,
this
no,
out.
I'm
Okay.
teasing you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So last time when we were moving, okay, this was a favorite couch. Okay, I
Okay.
had this for like 6 years, and I absolutely enjoyed it because it was very comforting. Okay, it became a little ugly, I guess, because it was it was old. And as for my wife, I mean, it did not fit into the new theme, and she
Right.
wanted a new couch, and she wanted to throw right away. And I'm like, hey, look, there are too many variables here. If we try to throw, then we have to plan it out. We have to, and I don't know how we are going to throw this. We have to take it out. If somebody does not pay it, then we have too many problems. And long story short, we ended up debating like 3 weeks just in this topic. Okay,
Yeah.
and that obviously delayed our move as well, because we were not able to come to the agreement. Sometimes we are not talking. I mean, that's common, right,
Of
Sana?
course.
Yeah.
Plus on a couch. Wow. That needs a lot of work though. But okay.
So this is the typical ERP situation, okay? Because you are going to have some sort of emotional value associated with that. Sometimes people just cannot communicate. So, for example, with my
Correct.
wife, she was not able to communicate why she
Right.
wanted to throw that couch, and if she wanted a new one, which one was that? She never gave me that option. So I was
Right.
like, okay, if you want to throw, give me some path here. Okay, what's going to happen? I mean,
Right.
how are we going to manage, right?
Right.
And so I didn't have that visibility, to be completely honest. Okay,
Okay.
so now, I mean, this is a very common situation in
Correct.
the ERP implementation.
No, because in
Everybody,
the human world, because we're humans. Remember
yes,
that.
exactly, exactly. So how would you? Okay, so we spent 3 weeks. Maybe we are dumb. Okay.
Correct.
So how would you resolve this? Because this is going to be real drama during every single ERP implementation. I've been doing this for 20 years, and every single implementation we get into the same.
Correct. Yep, yep. Say, okay. So absolutely, absolutely very, very valid. And if you're feeling a certain way, it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, Sam, you're feeling it. So it
Yeah.
is right, right? You're feeling that feeling, right? You or your wife. So it's very valid. So number one, you said three words as you were speaking, and I was listening to you. There were three things you said. Okay. You said one, the couch was very comfortable, but it was ugly. That's what you said. That's the first
Yeah,
word
yeah,
you
yeah,
used.
yeah.
Right. The second word you used is it was not fitting in to the newer design or the newer home that we were buying.
In her
That's,
mind, my mind
no,
is
no,
different, right? I
I'm
mean,
just
I don't
talking,
care, I
doesn't
guess.
matter whose mind. I'm just talking about the theme, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The that was the second thing that you talked about,
yeah.
right? And the third thing you talked about is you were very concerned as to how you're going to throw the couch, how are you going to get rid of it, who's going to come
Logistics.
pick it up, logistics, all of
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
Think about this just in 1 second. If your wife came to you, right, and said, hey, Sam, these are four couches that I've seen, okay? One is black, one is brown, one is dark brown, one is beige. I think this would look perfect. One of them would look perfect with this wall in our new home.
Yeah.
What is your resistance at that point, Sam? What would be your resistance? Your resistance would be, you know what? I like the dark brown better than the beige because of the color theme that we're going with. Your resistance at that point, Sam, was not going to be, no, I like that old couch because it's so damn comfy. You were not going in with a tunnel vision. You now have options, right? So it's always framing, Sam.
Yeah,
Life is all about framing, how you are
yeah,
going to frame certain things. I am not telling my clients, oh, I'm going to take you to the promised dreamland. Oh, absolutely bloody not. There is no dreamland. Okay. But what can I get you? I can show you what dreamland will look like in 12 weeks.
so here's what happened. I'll continue with the story. I think that's a very
Okay.
interesting story. Okay, so in my case, and that is probably going to be the case with most ERP users as well, right? So I care for color. I probably don't care as much for color. I do care when if it is not matching with the theme or whatever. But in this particular case, since I have the familiarity, with the couch, I knew that this was going to be comfy.
Right.
I have not tried the new ones, so I am going to have this fear in my mind, and that
Right.
goes back to the whole change management piece, right? You said that nobody wants to talk about OCM, I
Correct.
guess, but OCM matters
Yes.
because here we are talking about real change management. So
Yes.
in my mind, I just have fear,
Right.
and fear, they are very hard to overcome. Doesn't
Correct.
matter, and that's with everybody. Everybody's going to have some sort of fear. It doesn't need to be always about job security. It can be something
Oh,
else.
right.
Everybody has their own biases, fears.
Correct.
We have so limited time now in the world. Everybody's just so stressed, so they are going to have their own set of problems, and they will not be able to communicate, I guess. And that's where the whole problem starts. So in my case, even if she gave me four options, call me close-minded or whatever. That I'm not as open. I'm not seeing things from the new lenses. I get it, but I have my own fears that I have been using the Scout for 6 years. I didn't have any problems, no bad bugs whatsoever. I mean, see, I could trust this. Now with the new one, I just don't know.
You just don't know. Correct. So a known devil is better known than the unknown devil. Absolutely, in your case, right? So if so, again, to going back to the analogy of the four couches that you would have offered. Yes, totally understand. Closed minds are a very, very big thing, and no one can help anyone with a closed mind. That's God bless you. I hope you are able to open the mind. So there's nothing I can do. But look at so if she were to take the four colors that she had and actually walk you to a showroom, right, which had these four sofas, and say, Sam, let's sit on every single sofa. Sit down on every single one of them, right? Let's do a test run, just like a car dealership does, right? Hey, you want to buy a car? Here's keys. Go check it out. How does it drive? How do you sit? How does it feel, right? If she had done a test run on the sofas, your mind would have opened. I'm not saying you would not have a closed mind. Your mind would be open to other possibilities. And Sam, in life, just like everything else, everything that you want is on the other side of your fear. So if you are not able to understand what you want, even God can't help you, because God can only help those who help themselves. So it's as simple as that, right? And I say the same thing to my clients, that if you really want to make a difference and you really don't want an 80% failure rate, then ask yourself what you. That's most important.
And to be completely honest, the major challenges that we have in the ERP implementation is because of that.
Exactly.
So the people are not willing to change. They just don't see it. And, the whole process that you are describing, taking to the showroom, having them try, in with the example of couch, it looks easier. And the reason why it looks easier is because we can relate. We have seen these things. With ERP, million variables. I mean, it's very hard to see.
Yeah, because that's where we are trying to change the narrative, right? That's where we are trying to change the narrative. That's where we are saying there's a better way of doing this. What did I start my conversation with? That I'm not trying to change the world. I'm only trying to make it better. That's all I can do.
Yeah. I mean, but we need to define better for whom, I guess. Again, if that person is not willing to...
It's very subjective, Sam. It's very, very subjective. Better, when I say better, first of all, we're not touching an implementation. We're touching a phase 0, which is planning. So clients need to be open in their mind to say, before I'm going to spend a couple of $1 million, let me understand what I'm doing. That's the first thing, right? Once they say, you know what, this makes sense. Let me invest my 12 weeks. At least I'm not throwing away 6 months of work or 1 year of a POC. Let me invest my time in 12 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, whatever time. And people are doing it, right? A lot of these SIs are doing these phase 0s with their clients, and they're investing in it. But no one is asking the hard questions because nobody wants to rock the boat. And guess what? It doesn't bother me. I'm ready to rock the boat because I know there's a better way of doing things.
Yeah, and I can see some value, based on what you are describing. Let's say if somebody is doing 18 months phase 0,
right?
Then generally the issues that we see is, teams are going to disengage, priorities are going to change. So that could be a little longer, in general. So yes, the phase 0 has value, and you are right that you need to do a little bit of MVP version of phase 0.
Correct.
You need to expedite the process. You just cannot be you just cannot be too detailed, I guess. You need to figure out the fine balance, and maybe do it in a realistic timeline. Do it in phases. Try to do the MVP first, and then maybe if you feel that you need to build on that, you can build on that. Obviously in that 12 weeks, that timeline that you are talking about, you might not be able to uncover every single risk there, but you are going to have some direction. So I can see some value there in terms of, and that's what I mean. We recommend as well that if it is going to be too long, then you're not going to get commitment from the users because the results are too far. Nobody cares for it. They are not going to invest time. They are not going to be engaged. So I can see some value there in shortening the timeline.
Correct. And even if you're able to derive just 50% of the value, Sam, just for a second, right? You're not spending a couple of $1 million. You're spending a few thousands, right? Few hundred thousands. Even if you get a 50% value, isn't that better than zero? Anything's better than zero, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I completely agree that, whatever due diligence that you are doing, obviously if you're not doing anything, then you are sitting on a much higher risk.
Correct.
because none of the experts have seen what they might be doing. So yeah, you have to have something now, whether it is going to be 3 months, 6 months, 18 months. Obviously, it is dependent upon the context, depending upon the complexity,
Correct.
depending upon how many risks that you wanna uncover. But I mean, they have to do it. And if they
Exactly.
are sort of boiling the ocean, then we have seen some problems as well. That's
Absolutely,
probably not going to
absolutely
work.
agree. And one of the themes I have seen, Sam, on my podcast, as I've talked to a bunch of different leaders, and I'm sure you've been seeing that as well. You're a huge fan, so thank you for that. Everybody comes in with a different perspective, right? And one of the biggest things that I hear from leaders, on transformations is that it's not a one thing. It's not done once. It's done and it's done. It's a continuous journey of improvement.
Yeah.
So, yes, you start at phase zero, you do the implementation, you don't stop there. You continuously improve in phases, in batches, whichever way, whatever way works for your organization.
Yeah, so let's touch on the change management a little bit more. So,
Sure.
what is your position? Do you believe in it? Do you not believe in it? Initially when you said nobody wants to do OCM, so are you agreeing with them that OCM is probably not as important? Maybe define what OCM is for you, I guess.
No, I definitely believe change management is very, very key, right? Just to your point, right? In a very simple couch example, imagine if you had the opportunity, and this is, just for a moment, maybe this is your wife who's talking to you, who would have said to you, Sam, we're looking at a brand new house and planted the seed, right? You know what? Once we start looking at a home, Sam, we should start looking at furniture as well. The furniture we have is kind of old. I would really like a newer furniture. We're moving to a better place. So as we start looking, let's keep that in mind. Imagine if you had planted that seed at that point, Sam, in your mind. Your resistance to get rid of that couch would have not been so hard. It's the same exact thing with change management. When you tell people what to expect, how to expect it, give them a guideline. Hey, you know what? Your job is great. This is what you're doing. This has worked so far, but I'm going to train you to do better. Here's what we're going to do. And it's not a one-day training. It's a continuous training, right? Change management, again, is not one and done. It is continuous, right? And what is the first thing that goes off of a project? Change management. Scratch. We don't have time for that, right? So, and then we ask ourselves, why do we fail? Really? The answer's in front of us.
Exactly. So how do you sort of fit that in? So let's agree that obviously we need to have some sort of shortened phase zero, because if you have longer, then people are going to be disengaged, whatever.
Right.
Now change management, depending upon the therapy required, I guess, depending upon the person. If
Therapy.
the person
Like
is going
the
to be
word.
like me, Sana, you have hard luck. I'm telling you that right now.
Nothing is hard, Sam. Keep going. It doesn't bother me at all.
Okay, so I do take time, okay, in appreciating things and recognizing, and everybody has their own sort of journey they figure out on their
Absolutely.
own,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Some people, and that's common with the ERP implementation as well, right? So you are going to have those people as well that, okay, you are sort of fixating yourself with the 12 weeks timeline or whatever timeline that is. But then change management requires very tailored approach, very unique.
Yes.
In terms of what the resistance are, you need to understand. You need to let them sort of go to the water, or I don't know if that framing is right.
If you can take the horse to the water, you
Yeah,
can't make the horse drink the water.
yeah,
That's what you
yeah.
meant.
So
Yeah.
in this case, you are taking them to they are going themselves as
Right.
opposed to you taking them, right?
Right.
So and that realization takes time because they need to literally walk every single step on their own, and it's not easy if they have not done that before,
Correct.
because they are going to have their own fears. What's going to happen? I go there, I don't know.
Absolutely. So your point that you're making is that how do we handle change management, Sam? Is
Within
that
that 12 weeks window. So let's say
yeah?
the change management requires time because it's
Correct.
meant to be therapy. It's very long
Right.
process. It needs to be very tailored. It needs to be individual, people centric.
Right.
Now
Understood.
every person might take 12 weeks of their own time, I guess.
Right.
So if we sort of push that, okay, you know what, let's do this in 12 weeks and then we'll figure out the change, I guess,
Right.
because we don't
So
have enough time.
right. So what we do, Sam, is in the 12 weeks, we'll touch upon the current change structure or the current structure of what the client has, right? So what do they do for training? What do they do for upskilling? How do they retain talent? How do they acquire talent, right? And at the end of the 12 weeks, we will give them a separate, like a discussion or a separate deliverable on change management. Change management is not a part of the pillar that I have in the 12 weeks. The pillars that I have, like I mentioned, are the licensing, the data, the custom code, the solution review. But change management encompasses all of that, right?
Yeah.
So we will absolutely talk about change management, but we'll say this is best practices. This is what most clients do when they start off on an implementation. And then, of course, the choice is theirs if they want to start on that, right? That you can't force people to do things what they don't want to do.
Exactly. Never.
Yeah, they'll be like, who the heck are you to tell me what to do, even if it's better?
I know. Exactly. So we have some more comments. So let's go over
Sure.
those. So Lisa, she's enjoying our home decor analogy. So this is the furniture show, I guess now.
I guess it is. Thank you, Lisa. No, but to your point, Sam, you have to be able to relate to what you are doing in day-to-day life, right? This is just one more thing we do in our work, right? We've just made it too big for no reason, but it's just simple.
Exactly. I still like my couch. Okay, nobody's throwing it out.
You still like your couch. I'm very curious. Did it go into a garage or what?
You know how this goes, Hannah. Okay, I as the husband always have to concede. Regardless of whether I'm convinced. So that's the change management. That's how it works. We had to throw, okay? No negotiation there.
Yeah,
okay, it took 3 weeks. I should have realized that I'm going to waste my 3 weeks and let's just throw.
Finally, you did. I think Jason has another question.
I didn't have any choice, okay?
Yeah.
We all have bosses. Okay, so Jason has another question. He's saying that taking a strategic planning approach through transformation is very personal. Yes. That is right. And personal, and Jason is qualifying that is going to be organizational specific. But even within the organization, you are going to have personalities, you are going to have departments, you are going to have power centers, and they all are going to behave in a very specific manner. And you need to identify all of those risks and resistance, and address them. Must be risk-based and balanced. 12 weeks is one extreme, 12 months or one. Yeah, I think he's right. Both are extreme.
Correct.
So you need to find some sort of middle ground there.
Jason, you are absolutely correct. You are right. But unfortunately, there is no right answer. And I'll give you an example. It's all about perception. So for some clients, 12 weeks is wow. In 12 weeks, I get to see a brand new system. Oh my God, this is not even possible. For other people, just like yourselves who are skeptics, really? You're going to show me a system in 12 weeks? Oh, that's bullshit. But guess what? We've done it. We've shown it because that's what we do, right? And at the end of the 12 weeks, both the sets of the clients have been, oh my God, this is really happening. So totally agree with you, Jason. Not opposed. You're absolutely correct. But this system works and it has worked well for a number of our clients. And I have 45,000 clients more to go. So we'll see.
45,000 clients. Wow.
Yeah, there's 45,000 clients who've not moved to S4 yet, Sam.
Yeah, no, that's a big chunk, obviously. That's a big chunk. And I don't know when they are going to move, for SAP as well. That's going to be hard.
Yeah, once they do the 12 weeks with me, then they'll think of moving.
All 45,000 with you, Sana.
I can't keep up, Sam. What can I tell you?
Okay, so we have one more comment here. Customers also need to realize that software providers, SIs, and consultants can pretty much go as fast as you like. The issue is the customer's piece.
100%. Absolutely. Jason, spot on. So the way to work with a customer, and this is exactly what we do within the phase 0, the 12 weeks, is we have a very, and don't kill me for saying this, we have expiration dates, as in if I'm working with them on a discovery phase, on the discovery, I'll be like, this discovery is only valid for 48 hours. If it's not done, then sorry, I will have to give you another link. Most of the times, the customers are really good, and in 48 hours, we're able to complete discovery. Sometimes there are clients who say, sorry, we could not do it, but it's not been very often. People will do as they are told if there is a structure and you explain to them why you are asking them to do a certain thing. If it's, doesn't make sense, if it's not concrete, then people fight it. Dude, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for you. So if you don't want it, God bless you, man. No problem. Like I said, 45,000 more clients to go after. So no hard.
That's exactly what Jason is saying, that they don't want to do it. then they go
That's
at their
fine.
own customer.
Then they can be in La La Land and they can keep complaining about ERP failures at 80%. So that can't change that.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the ECC specific nuances that you have seen in your
Sure.
engagement where you found some sort of surprises, curveballs. So maybe talk about those.
So I definitely found really some interesting stories on licensing, right? Definitely licensing. That's a huge black box for a lot of clients. And even internally, if they want to have someone work on their SAP licenses, I don't think they have the ability to, because, these people are doing their day jobs. They don't know how to look at a bill of material, understand licensing, right? They just don't know. That's definitely been a big curveball. The other curveball has been SAP integration. So many clients in their mind think when they move from E to S4, they are just going to be making the move from on-prem to cloud. But they don't know that every time you move to a cloud application, that's additional dollars. And it's a wake-up call when they say, oh, wait, but my Salesforce should work. I'm like, it's going to go to the cloud. Oh, really? And how much money is that? Oh, that's another 300K. So a lot of clients don't think about that. They probably know it, but they don't think about it when they are, in throes of the transformation. So those are the two big curveballs that we have seen. Custom code, obviously, we all know is very much there, but these are the two big ones I've seen.
Okay, so we have one more comment here. I think that's very interesting. So Evan is saying, great session both. Thank you. I have project managed a real S4 implementation in 18 weeks. Okay, so it can actually be done, as you are saying. Let's spread the message. It's weeks, not months. Now, keep up the great
Yay!
content.
Thank you,
So,
Evan. I
yeah.
appreciate you, Sam. You see this? We have one person who believes. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of believers, I guess, and I'm a
I'm
believer
telling
now.
you, Sam, it's you.
You made me believe. I already threw my couch.
Your fault, man. Your fault. No, but see, so Evan has actually
I'm a
done
believer.
S4 implementation in 18 weeks. There you go. There you go.
Okay, Sana. So, did you want to cover anything that you could not cover as part of this episode?
No. I really enjoyed chatting with you, Sam. Thank you for the hard questions. Absolutely a pleasure. And like I said, you know what? I can only teach clients how to make things better. I can't force them to do it. And if that's a choice they're going to make, God bless them. And, there's nothing we can do.
Okay, any more closing advice, closing thoughts? How people can find you if they want to find you?
Sure, absolutely. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. Reach out to Sam. He'd be happy to connect, me with you, any of you. If there's any questions, feel free to DM me. But I think phase 0 is the way to go. And we're calling it phase 0 with version 0. So at the end of the 12 weeks of the phase 0, you get a S4HANA system with your own processes that you can look at. And of course, there's the iterations, but it's a good starting point. That's it.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Sana. And you are
Thank you,
incredible.
Sam. I
Always.
appreciate your time.
It's always fascinating discussion with you. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of experience in the industry. So thank you so much for coming on. Looking forward to doing many more together.
My pleasure.
On that note, if you joined for the first time, this was part of our interview series for which we meet every Friday. So make sure you guys are going to watch my wall. Next week, we are going to come back with another guest. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in today.
Thanks, Sam. Take care.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.